Hi, this is Mike Stevenson with Integral Consulting. Today I wanted to show you how to load a file that has the multiple years and periods in the rows with one data column to data management. So let's begin. This is the format that we're dealing with. We're going to load it to a CapEx cube. To begin with, this needs to be converted from an Excel file to a CSV file. Also, in the case of having year and period in the data, we're going to have to change the year from FY22 in this case to 2022. So let's go ahead and do that just to get the data into the right format. Here's 2023. So let me just copy this down here. All right, so now the data is the appropriate format for loading. So let's go to Data Manager in this test application. And the first thing we're going to do is go to the Setup tab and create a target application. I'm going to assume that your configurations are all done. The source system is just a file, so we can just go ahead and create a new target application. It's planning, and it's the FinPlan application. And this prefix, we're going to have MY for multi-year, CapEx with a dash, and that's going to be the prefix for this target application when it's created. So you can tell one from the other. Go ahead and hit save. All right, there it is. This application has more dimensions than the CapEx cube utilizes, so we can go ahead and just get rid of those so we don't have to look at them. So I'm going to get rid of account status, channel, location, position, and vintage year. Don't need any of those. So now I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 here. We're going to hit save. For this particular type of load, we're going to have to go into application options, and the load method is not going to be numeric only. It's going to be all data types with security. So hit OK and save it. So that's all we need to do for target application. Good to go. Import format, we're going to have to create a new one. So let's add, we're going to call it multi-year CapEx load. It's file type. We're going to use delimited all data types. The target is going to be the one we just created, so multi-year CapEx, and it's comma delimited, so that's fine. Go ahead and hit save. Now we need to add the source columns. So account, let's go to the data file. That's the third. Let me go ahead and add some numbers up here so we know which fields we're dealing with. All right. So account is 3. And it's important to get the fields right, because if you assign the wrong field, then you're going to get an error when you try to upload. Asset class, we can just call that class. That is 7. Asset detail, that is 8. Company is 4. Data, that's amount. Data is 11. Then department is 5. Vendor is 6. Version is 10. All right. Now, because the period and year are in the data, we're going to have to reference those in the source column. So we need to add source period row for year. So we'll call that SC for source year, and that is column 1. Then we're going to add source period row for period, SC for source period, and that is 2. All right, save that. All right, so we're looking at multi-year CapEx load. I think we're done here. Everything's accounted for. So let's move on to this next step, which is location. We're going to create a new one. We're going to call it a multi-year CapEx load. We're going to select the right import format. And these can be none. There's no groups that I'm dealing with here. Hit save. Now we have a location. Period mapping. This is the unique part about loading with period and year and the dimension, because you're going to have to do some source mapping here for the period. So you go to source mapping tab and select file for the source system. Explicit is what you should have there. I've already created it, but for the calendar, this is basically a tag for you to be able to select which mapping you want to use if there's more than one. This is where it was important to make sure you have the 4-digit year code, because if you type in FY21 here, for example, it's going to give you an error as soon as you try to hit enter. So you want to have the 4-digit numeric code for year. This is where you put the 3-character code for the month or the period. There's a space here if you're using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for, you know, a numeric representation of the period. If you're not using that, leave it blank. So this is all good to go. I have 21 through 23 already built in here. So obviously, if you add a new year to your data, you're going to have to build on this. All right, so next, category mapping. We already have that. We're doing forecast. So that's just a straight shot. So now we can go to the workflow tab and create a load rule. So the first thing we want to do is select our location that we created. And there it is, multi-year CapEx. The first month, I'll just make it FY22. And we'll set that as the default for now, just to get the ball rolling. We're going to add a new load rule. We're going to call it multi-year CapEx load. We're going to leave the category at forecast because that's what we're loading. The period mapping is going to change from default to explicit. And this is where you choose the calendar, and that's that tag that we talked about earlier. The target plan type is CapEx. And the import format is the multi-year CapEx load. And I've already loaded the file, uploaded it here, so it's in the inbox. It's the multi-year CapEx test. So we can just save there, and we cannot execute yet because we need to go to mapping. So for mapping, we have all these dimensions to map. So for count, we're going to add a wildcard. So for count for the CapEx cube, we prefix everything with CPX underscore and a wildcard. So that's the account mapping. No problem there. Asset class is just a pass through. Then asset detail does have a map. So wildcard, and that is ASID underscore asset ID, and the wildcard detail, and choose that rule. Then we move on to company, and that's just a pass through. I could have hard coded some of the stuff in the import format, but I didn't do that. So we're doing it here. Department, just a wildcard pass through. Save that. Vendor, same thing. Save that. Then the last one is version. Pass through. All right, that's done. So we can now go back to our load rule, and it should execute properly. Hopefully we have no errors. We want to import to from the source. We want to export to the target, which is the cube, the CapEx cube, and the data spans from January 2022 to December 2023. All right, so run. And what we want to see is in the status a little green check mark. Hopefully that's going to happen. Refresh, refresh, and there's the green check mark. Awesome. So let's go check out the data in the workbench. We see 3 goldfish. Good to go. We see all the source and target mappings done. Here's the value in the target data. It's 121. There it is for January. You can see that it just loaded that one. The next one is February, and it should be 301. So let's check that out real quick just to spot check it. Feb. Okay, and let's look over. There's 301. So that's it. We have our data loaded, and we were able to load from multiple years, multiple periods. So one massive data load. This would be great for an initial data load if you're migrating from an old system to a new system, or if you want to just wipe out your data and reload it just to make sure everything's in sync. All right, thank you very much, and take care.